Happy 2014. Welcome to the Arts Overlook. I'm your host, Ian Goldsmith. Every episode highlights the arts and entertainment of the Cedar Valley. In this first episode of calendar year 2014, we have all kinds of goodies for you. We take a look at the new and unique art medium known as performance art. We study the unique power of movies, and we learn more about local art classes for kiddos. I hope your New Year's resolutions include watching more Arts Overlook, because the first new episode of 2014 starts now.
Art is thriving in the Cedar Valley. It's everywhere. But if you don't know where to look, you could miss it. This is your local arts perspective. This is the Arts Overlook.
Art is everywhere. Sure, sculptures and paintings are in many places that we go, but that's not what I mean. I mean art can literally be everywhere. As you always hear in the Arts Overlook opener, art is thriving in the Cedar Valley, but if you don't know where to look, you could miss it. With our next two artists, they do more than just view art in the world around them. They interact with it. I had the privilege to sit down with two UNI art students and learn more about the relatively unknown art form known as performance art.
Performance art is the newest up-and-coming medium in art. The artist is actually present while making art, and so they create some sort of experience that viewers can see and interpret.
It's in the art world just like painting and drawing, and so if you would compare it to painting, it would be like, I am the paint and everything else is a canvas, and I am going to use my body and different objects to paint this picture in the environment and in the surroundings.
Performance art is a course that's offered at UNI, and it was required for me to take in my curriculum, and so I took it being very hesitant, not knowing what it was.
And I was really into learning many new things, and so I took it and I fell in love with it right away, and I couldn't stop taking it. I'd just been taking the class ever since.
With theater, the actors take on a character and they try to become someone that they aren't actually themselves. They're a character. With performance art, we're not trying to be anyone except for who we are, and we're being genuine to ourselves and to the art form and expressing ourselves however we feel fit. I believe that anything can be performance art. Everybody's an artist, and so the way they see anything around them can be considered art, and I consider that performance art. And so you can be intentional with the actions that you do, where you perform. You can choose all the different environments, and you can choose if you have an audience to see it live or if you can show it through video. So really anything and everything is performance art.
And so it starts with this idea, and then I can't plan it all in my head because it would be cut short, because you can't imagine everything that's going to happen. You can't imagine all these faults that might come up, or materials might work in a different way than how you think they do. And so a lot of it is you come up with this idea, but then you have to explore with the objects and explore with the items to see how they really work, and then see what comes from that. So a lot of it is just allowing things to happen and playing, but in a way where you're being critical of what's working best and analyzing everything and reflecting. And it's a process where you really have to be present. You have to be there, mind, body, energy, just continuously there and working and on it.
With the work we're working on now, we explore objects. We call them object discoveries. And so we have random objects that we find around us and find ways to move and interact with them. And so the entire performance itself is basically just a discovery. We don't usually plan what we're going to do with these particular pieces. We just move with them and see how our bodies work and how the objects work. I think the first time we ever did an object discovery was really intriguing. We didn't know what we were doing. We just were in a room with 4 objects and started moving, and we ended up going for about half an hour to 45 minutes. And it was amazing how the time just flew and we got lost in the performance.
Melissa and I had been working a lot with this object exploration and process, and how different movements would come about, or different sequences of movements would come about and create a piece and what they would say all together. And so we had been doing a lot of free-form movements where we would explore it as we went, but this one we had set movements. And so for this one we were just kind of setting up the bar higher for ourselves, and can we do this, and how will our history of just using objects and exploring the objects relate to then moving into specific movements that we're going to do with these objects.
And so we started with just objects and figuring out how we could move with them, and we found 5 specific movements that we enjoyed, and then put them in an order, and we just continued them over and over.
My favorite part about performance art would definitely be it's open to whatever you're feeling in that moment. So no matter what it is in that exact moment, you can make it happen. And just the ability to create something that you imagine or something that you feel, and have other people share it with you, and have that back and forth exchange of energy and of feelings.
Performance art, I can express myself while being present in the artwork. I find that really enjoying. Like with painting, I can paint it and hang the painting on the wall and everyone else can see it, but I'm separate from the work. With performance, I'm present there the entire time.
One thing that was really incredible to experience through this college performance art exploration was how everything then turned into performance art, where me even brushing my teeth was a performance art piece, or any small thing that I would do in my daily life would turn into not necessarily like, oh, this is a performance I'm performing, but like me noticing it differently or thinking of it differently in a way that I hadn't thought of it before. And so then it kept everything fresh. Even brushing my teeth every night would become this new fresh experience, and it would make life more exciting and everything more exciting, really, seeing everything differently. And so then when I think about like how performance art is going to fit in my future, it's like, well, it's always going to be there because it's always there no matter what. You just have to think of it as it being there. And it's more of a mind process in that sort of way, or a mindset. And so it's nice because it opens it up to everything.
Thank you again to Melissa and Mandy. I had a blast filming and interviewing them. I am sincerely very impressed with their work, and I look forward to seeing them perform and continuing to spread this very cool art form into the world. Now, I was feeling pretty inspired after filming Melissa and Mandy, perhaps a little bit too inspired. My Channel 15 co-worker Matt Lang and I decided to try some performance art around our studio, but we found out the hard way that performance art is a lot more difficult than we anticipated. Melissa and Mandy said that anything can be performance art, but I don't think Matt and I quite have the skills to make it look good. Let's take a look anyway.
What are you guys doing?
Well, after almost breaking a lot of expensive equipment and Brian's back, Matt and I decided that it's best to leave performance art to the real artists like Mandy and Melissa. Movies are one of the most popular mediums of entertainment in our world. One reason they are popular is because that they can be powerful. The newest film series at the Hearst Center for the Arts takes a look at how we can co-create meanings through the power of movies. The Hearst Center for the Arts is currently hosting an educational film series known as The Power of Movies. The series is hosted by two celebrated Cedar Falls residents, Scott Kowalty and Gary Kelly. In addition to their respective professions, both Kowalty and Kelly are film buffs. The two friends decided to collaborate with their expertise to put together this film series. Gary, who is a professional artist, and Dr. Kowalty, who is an English professor and author, complement each other very well as a duo of film connoisseurship.
He and I were talking a long time ago how we should try to make a course together because we always enjoy talking about movies. And I said, well, I can talk a lot about the story and the language, and I'll bet you can talk a lot about the visuals. He said, sure. So we started doing it, just practicing. It made perfect sense. Whenever I think about a movie, to me it's the story and the language. And whenever he thinks about a movie, it's the pictures that punch out at him.
I look at key frames in a film as, say, compositional paintings or drawings, or I look at imagery that way. And I break it down, you know, in my head quicker than I can't analyze it, but because it goes by too fast. But I think it speaks to me on the same level that my favorite painters speak to me in the way they put imagery together.
Kowalty and Kelly look at all the different elements of a film that come together to create our experience. The images you see in a film consist of characters moving on the camera, movement by the camera itself, and the movement between frames, or editing. The sounds of a film are a blend of language, music, and sound effects. Imagery and sound then come together to create the plot, which is ultimately how the audience creates meaning to a film.
One of the big points we make and talk about is that meaning is co-created. You can't just say that it's there. You have to say it's there for me because. Meanings are in things not because they're in the things, but because you see them in the things. Sometimes you see them, sometimes you don't. Some people see them, not everybody does. I don't like the idea of this film was boring. I like the idea of saying this film bored me.
The Power of Movies film series is comprised of 4 sessions, each with a different theme. Each of the 4 sessions group together 2 classic films that demonstrate a dominant emotional effect. The 4 themes and emotional effects in the series are fright, inspire, excite, and dazzle. I attended the first session, Fright, where we viewed scenes from 2 horror classics, the 1920 expressionistic The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari and the 1960 Alfred Hitchcock masterpiece, Psycho. At the beginning of the session, Gary spoke to the audience on the artistic style of Expressionism. Expressionism is a movement in the arts that became prominent shortly after World War I. It focuses less on creating realism and focuses more on evoking feeling. As an artist, Gary often uses expressionistic values in his work, trying to leave an impression on the viewer through each drawing or painting.
I want to create an image that people can understand, but they're going to see some quirky little things happening in it that push them one way or the other. And the goal is not to recreate a photograph. The goal is to create what are a number of abstract shapes and colors that when you step back and process them in your mind, they become a readable image. And with film, I look at it the same way.
Dr. Caligari is the first film that's really accredited with embracing the expressionistic style, using drastic angles in the set to create a sense of insanity.
So in the case of Francis and Dr. Caligari, the premise is he's crazy. And so instead of showing somebody talking about being crazy, you show crazy. Everything on the screen is nuts. It doesn't fit together. There's all kinds of horrors going on visually. That's how Francis sees the world, we think. And therefore it works as an art form because you're inside the mind of a madman and it looks like you're inside the mind of a madman. A little bit the same with Psycho in that Norman Bates is with us all the time. We see, after Marion's dead anyway, we're with Norman. And we see the world a lot through his point of view. It's very disturbing. It's voyeuristic. It's mean. He's crazy too. So in both films, in a way, for a good deal of the time, we're in the mind of a madman. So film is an art form that can be internal as well as external. And in the case of both of these films, we're internal a good deal of the time.
Both Caligari and Psycho are excellent examples of films that have impacted cinema and the audiences that view them. Kowalty and Kelly hope that the educational film series will encourage moviegoers to understand ways that a film help us co-create memorable meanings.
It's informative, I guess, as much or more than educational, and it's hopefully enjoyable. But I think it's just a chance for us to talk about what we see in the film and take home with you what you want.
We want people to appreciate how powerful films are in our lives. You can always, all of us can think of films that made a difference, that really changed how we see the world. And we chose films that changed us. So we want them to appreciate why. You know, sometimes something changes us, we have no idea what happened, but in the case of the movies that change people, you really can trace it back to something that happened in the film. The way it was shot, the way the sound worked, the way the dialogue came together with the images. Something's there that worked, and you can understand it. You can analyze it, make sense of it, and hopefully see it again the next time you watch a film.
As of press time, there are 2 more sessions of the series remaining. Excite will be on Thursday, January 23rd, and Dazzle will be on Thursday, January 30th. Each session lasts from 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. and is $10 for audience members. As for me, I plan to continue co-creating meanings in film and always strive to better appreciate the power of movies. For Cedar Falls Television, I'm Ian Goldsmith. The Hearst Center certainly has started the new year off with a bang. In addition to the film series, the Hearst Center for the Arts will be hosting Saturday morning art classes for kids throughout the spring. Channel 15's Shelby Gappa has the scoop.
The James and Merrill Hearst Center for the Arts has been holding Saturday morning art classes for kids for many years. It offers a multitude of different art classes that the children can choose from to do each Saturday morning.
Saturday morning classes are a variety of classes we offer to different ages, and they go from anything from clay classes to paints and prints to Legos, and then even for the real little ones, we have a starter class that kind of introduces everything in art.
The Hearst Center always offers their basic classes of clay and paints and prints at various levels for the different ages. However, they are always adding new, unique classes to the roster.
A lot of the newer classes that have started up this session have been inspired by the children. Our clay creatures classes was pretty much because that's what the kids would make. When we hand them the ball of clay, they would like to make their own type of monsters or things, so we just were like, oh, let's make this a class because that's what they like to do anyway.
Another such class that was inspired by the students is Legos. This new class was encouraged after instructors saw that the kids enthusiastically played with the Legos at the end of class while waiting for their parents to pick them up or switch classes. There's even a class for the youngest of kids to enjoy.
So making a mark on a world class is really good for the youngest kids. We start it from ages 4, and they get introduced to everything from paints to crafting. They'll do a little bit of clay, but they get to do whatever they like, and so they can really find their niche in art.
If the class in a particular art form or theme is wanted, the Hearst Center adds the class for Saturday morning class options. If the class is no longer liked, they remove it. The Hearst Center focuses on what the kids will enjoy the most. The students love to get messy and use their hands and imagination. The parents love these weekly classes as well.
They love dropping their kids off here. They know we're a safe environment with really responsible teachers. So they have no problem with dropping them off here and getting to do their own thing for a little bit, and their kids have a great time while they're here.
The girls love our class. They get an excuse to paint, and I don't have to clean up at home. So we can keep the crayons and colored pencils at home, and they can get the paints out here. They do a lot of different activities that I would never think of here. So things where they get to use glitter, they get to use paint, or they get to use glue, or they made a drum last time, which they thought was really cool. It's just things that, with my experience, I wouldn't know to create these little projects that they do. I just give them a piece of blank paper and say, have at it.
The Hearst Center for the Arts staff loves seeing all the students return for another session. They constantly see children grow up while attending the Saturday classes and see their love of art develop. Saturday morning classes at the Hearst Center for the Arts is offered throughout the year, except during the summer months when the Hearst Center has a creativity camp throughout the week for the children to enjoy. Reporting for Arts Overlook, I'm Shelby Gappa.
To sign up for classes or to view more information on class options, visit their website at www.hearstartscenter.org. That does it for this episode of the Arts Overlook. Now go out there and experience the beauty in the world around you. Until next time, I'm Ian Goldsmith. Thanks for watching.